I actually have a lot to tell you about today. Hey BookTube, it's Kim at Middle of the Book March, and this is my Bookish week for Sunday, Christmas Eve, December 24th. I'm not filming this on Christmas Eve. I'm filming in advance, but I am sticking with my schedule, so it is now posted on Christmas Eve morning. Hope you enjoy it. And yeah, I do have quite a bit to talk to you about. Not a lot that I've finished. I did finish one book. Life, let me tell you, life has been really distracting lately and busy and stressful. So not that reading has taken a backseat, but I haven't had a lot of the mental energy to devote to it. But I've got some great things going on in a bookish way. So let me tell you about The Silence of the Girls by Pat Barker. I finished this book. I am so glad I decided to reread this for Remember December, because I had a completely different reading experience this time than I did the first time. I gave this book 2 stars when I first read it for the BookTube Prize a couple of years ago, and now I've reviewed it and I've given it 4 stars, and I'm not sure why. I think I kind of analyzed it the last time I talked about this book. I was reading it quickly for the BookTube Prize. Maybe I wasn't in a good mood. I don't know. Maybe I felt like it was too much of an assignment, but I took my time this time. I really enjoyed it. This is the story of Briseis, who is a Trojan woman, wife of the king, and she's kind of watching the Greek army take over the city of her city of, what is it called? Lernessus or something like that. I don't remember what it's called, but her city's being sacked, and her husband is dead. She watches her brothers be killed by the Greek army, and she among many of the women are taken as spoils of war to the Greek camp, and she is actually chosen by Achilles to be his sex servant, basically. And we read about the Greek army and Achilles and Patroclus, and the part that Achilles played in the Greek victory over Troy, and Achilles as a warrior. Pat Barker is known for being a war narrative author. This book was so well written, and I honestly don't know why I had such a difficult review of it the first time, but I just was able to read it this time and see the beauty in it, see the mastery in her writing. I was really involved in the story, and I was just dumbfounded. It is as you would expect. It's the retelling of the Greek army, including Achilles, overcoming these mythical Roman city-states, and who Achilles was and what kind of warrior he was. He is the son of a god and a human, and so just so much stuff there to be interested in and to enjoy reading. If you were a mythology fan or a fantasy fan, this is a really good book for you. And Barker is an expert at writing about war, so there's a lot of pretty gory scenes, there's a lot of battle scenes, there's a lot of blood and guts and horror, a lot. So if you don't have the stomach for that, it's not a good book for you. But if you enjoy the mythological retelling and stories of battles and gods and goddesses, and this was so good. And it talks about Briseis' experience as a female slave to Achilles, but also many of the other women and what roles they played. And she was royalty, so her position was far higher than a lot of slave women who were taken as spoils of war. Or young women. I mean, these were girls that were taken and being forced to be sex slaves of Greek warriors, and often they were married off to them and bore them children. And the title, I hate it when titles have the word girls in it. It's not, the title is a little misleading because it's not The Silence of the Girls, It's the silence almost of their existence. They weren't silent with each other. And Briseis's thoughts were not silent. You could very easily know her as a person by the internal monologue she has with herself on the page. I really enjoyed this book, and I thought it was very well written. I'm dumbfounded. That blew the top of my head right off. So I actually recommend this book this time. I didn't the first time, and was very happy I reread it. We'll hold on to that one. That's the book I finished. I have 3 on the go. One of them is the Unabridged Journals of Sylvia Plath. I am rereading The Evidence of Things Unseen by Marianne Wiggins. Marianne Wiggins recently wrote The Properties of Thirst, which I also read and loved months back. This is one of my all-time favorite books of all time. My all-time favorite book of all time. It's so beautiful. And I am about a third of the way through, maybe a quarter of the way through. And I'm rereading this for Remember December. It is a beautiful, lush, descriptive novel. It is just so wonderful, and so happy that I picked it back up. This is one of those books that I read the first time and knew pretty early on this was a special book for me. And I feel the exact same way. Excuse me. That's often one of my issues with rereading, is I'm afraid I'm going to reread a beloved book and I'm not going to love it anymore. This is not the case. I'm loving it even more because it's bringing back the story to me. So just a gorgeous book. This is on the level of Now in November for me. It is so beautiful and so well written and just an incredible story. So highly recommend it. I got further in The Codebreaker by Walter Isaacson. I am about a third of the way through this one. Very proud of myself for getting back into my nonfiction that I've been trying to read since November. But it's good. It's very good, and I'm glad I read more. I'm looking forward to picking it back up. This is the story of Jennifer Doudna and her work on the CRISPR system and gene editing and the future of the human race. So it's very good. It's very good. If you are interested in science, it's exceptionally done for scientific narrative nonfiction. It's an excellent book if you are a science geek or you're interested in that kind of stuff. So what's coming up? The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. I am also rereading this for Remember December. I am going to be picking this up probably over Christmas break next week and reread The Hobbit. I can't wait. And next year, I think I can reveal this. Heidi and I are going to reread the Lord of the Rings trilogy sometime through the year. Not sure yet what the schedule's going to be. And we've invited 1 or 2 other booktubers, and we're waiting to see if they want to join in. I'm not really opening this up to a read-along or any type of Voxer or Discord or anything like that. But I'll let you know for sure when we're going to be reading. Not The Hobbit, I'm going to be reading that next week. The Lord of the Rings next year. So I will you'll know based on my Bookish Week videos. So this will be coming up next week. And our first book club book for the Critical Chicks, we're meeting on the 12th of January, I believe. And we do Secret Santa. So we don't meet in December because of the holidays. It's just too stressful and busy. So we meet in January and we have our Secret Santa Christmas party. And this is a weird book that we're going to be reading, but I'm actually really looking forward to it. This is All the Sinners Bleed by S.A. Cosby. And he wrote Blacktop Wasteland and another book or two, Razorblade Tears. So I'm looking forward to reading this one. This is the first for the Critical Chicks book group for next year. Now, what do I have for you next? I have a small book haul. Yep, you heard me right. I have bought some books. These are books that they're all either used or bargain books. And these are books that I think I will end up keeping. So these are keepers, and that's why I purchased them. The first one is for another reading project I'm going to be doing next year. This is The Virgin in the Garden by A.S. Byatt, And Judy Brown and I are going to be reading A.S. Byatt's novels, The Virgin in the Garden. I forget the name of the second one. The third one is Babel Tower. Still Life is the second one. So, this is the first one, The Virgin in the Garden. Still Life is the second one. Babel Tower is the third one. So Judy and I are going to start with this next year, possibly in January. I don't remember. Judy, I don't remember. We'll figure it out because I'm also going to be doing the Lord of the Rings project. So this is coming up. I found this. This is pretty much like a vintage used copy of this book. Now, for A.S. Byatt, this was published in 1978. With A.S. Byatt, I read Possession twice. Not my favorite book, even though it's just a beloved novel of other people's, not beloved by me. I liked it. I could not stand the movie with Gwyneth Paltrow. It was an awful movie. But I really do want to read an A.S. Byatt and find out, am I going to continue with her novels? Will I continue with Still Life after this one? We'll see. The next one I purchased is Assumption by Percival Everett. And this is one of his books I don't have. It's set in the sleepy New Mexico backwater of Plata. Deputy Sheriff Ogden Walker spends his time humoring his portly boss, chasing vandals and fly fishing. That's all I'm going to read because Percival Everett is so sarcastic and snarky and funny and horrific and brilliant all at the same time. So I found this one on a discount and I'm adding this to my Everett collection. This one needs really no description. This is Weird Things Customers Say in Bookstores by Jen Campbell, and I will link Jen Campbell's BookTube channel below. But I found it at a discount and thought, why not? It's going to be funny. It's going to be a very quick read. Really looking forward to that one. I might get to this pretty early in the new year. Thought that was really cute. This one, I don't love reading political nonfiction. Well, who am I kidding? I kind of do. But this one is from a senator who I really admire, and it is Amy Klobuchar's book, Antitrust, Taking on Monopoly Power from the Gilded Age to the Digital Age. This is a topic I am fascinated by. So, in Amy Klobuchar, I'm really looking forward to reading her writing and her thoughts about what she thinks on this topic. This is something that I don't think about a lot, but in American politics and the economy, it's becoming much more obvious in our economic climate, the monopolies of industries that are going on in the U.S. The next one is nonfiction. I saw this once and I kind of, oh, that looks interesting. I was browsing, I saw it again. I'm like, I think it's a sign. That looks really good. And the author is a well-known narrative historical nonfiction author. I read a book of his, Story of Russia, for the BookTube Prize last year. Did not love it, but I appreciated him as an author and an artist. This is The Europeans by Orlando Figes. 3 Lives in the Making of a Cosmopolitan Culture. So this is kind of going to be, in my assumption, a cultural and social historical commentary of the Europeans. And the 19th century in Europe was the first age of cultural globalization, an epoch when the coming of the railroad and the advent of mass communication overcame national barriers and created a truly pan-American, pan-European culture. By 1900, people across the continent were reading the same books, looking at the same art, and attending the same opera performances. That sounds really good. And yeah, these aren't usually as long. It's a good size. There's pictures. There's pictures throughout the book. It's not a novel, but there's also color photos interspersed in the middle of it. The last book, I've wanted to purchase this for such a long time. I finally did. This is another nonfiction. However, this is the author of Now in November, The Inland Island by Josephine Johnson, A Year in Nature. Now in November has become one of my favorite books of all time. It's a small group, but that's one of them. And this is her nonfiction book. It was published in 1969. It's her chronicle of 1 year on a sprawling 37-acre farm in Ohio that she and her husband reverted to wildness over several decades. In this patient, insightful account, she observes the changing landscape with a naturalist's precision and a poet's evocative language. If you've read Now in November, you will understand the beauty of her writing when she's writing about nature and the landscape. Even though Now in November is a very depressing, emotional book, her writing is brilliant and gorgeous. And so I'm really looking forward to this one as well as her nonfiction book. So that's my bookish week for last week. I was pretty happy with myself. Finished one. I'm reading a few good books. I purchased some books. I have plenty of room on my shelves, but I also started listening to a couple of audiobooks that I've just discarded. I stopped listening to Romola on audio. I need to read that in print. It's George Eliot. I need to read it with my eyes. Lucy Scott is an excellent narrator, and she narrates plenty of other audiobooks that I will listen to. And I also started 2 other current audiobooks that I don't know, I'm getting wishy-washy or jaded with audiobooks. Maybe I'm picking the wrong ones, possibly. So that's it for me. Let me know in the comments below what you think about anything I talked about or any of the books I talked about, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, everybody.